Hello, Tar Heel Nation. We are back. We didn't desert the season. We didn't give up on them quite yet. We'll talk about that though. But just kind of looking back, we haven't podcasted for I think almost exactly 2 weeks. We've had 5 games since the last podcast, so hopefully this one will be better than the last one because the last one was right after the Duke shellacking at home. We've beat Clemson by 2. I feel like something happened at the end of that game, and I can't even remember. It's been so long ago. And then we beat
It was
Florida.
a great it was a great three-pointer from Caleb to tie it maybe, and then a great drive and dish to
That's what I
Manic
was thinking. It
for
was the
a
dish.
bucket with like 3 seconds left or something.
Yeah,
And I think a fingertip block by Leaky to seal it.
that sounds
Was
right. And I felt like when I saw the dish off to Manic, there was resemblance of some late game winner. We've just had too many of them. I couldn't remember. But then we went on to beat Florida State by 20. And then right, of course, after that, we follow up being consistent in how inconsistent we are. We follow up the 20-point win against Florida State with the 9-point loss against Pittsburgh in Chapel Hill. And then, of course, we turn that around and we get our first and only quad one win against Virginia Tech at their place. And then we do follow that up again tonight with a win 70-63 over Louisville. And that's what's happened right before this podcast. That's a lot, Gil. How are you doing? And just what's going through your mind with this team besides what we've said over and over every podcast?
Hey, what's up? I'm doing pretty well. I think I mentioned on that podcast 2 weeks ago that I had broken my leg. That was almost 4 weeks ago. So thank goodness there's been plenty of basketball to watch. And if you've said anything truthful in your life, Dan, you nailed it with this team is consistently inconsistent. That is for darn sure. But they have racked up wins. The outlier was the terrible home loss to a awful Pitt team, which was just kind of disgraceful, really, and such a bummer when they followed up with back-to-back wins, which thankfully they did follow it up with back-to-back wins. According to all projections, the team is currently on the inside of the bubble, maybe a 10 seed. Good win tonight over Louisville. Good win tonight against Virginia Tech. I think defensively, maybe they're stepping up, and that's what maybe helped them down the stretch, pull away from Louisville tonight. And stop a good shooting Virginia Tech team that's tough to beat in Castle Coliseum. I think it was maybe defensive. For me, the things that I saw tonight and here recently that have been concerning have been the team's propensity to try and score outside, like not even get the ball inside of the 3-point line hardly at all sometimes on certain possessions. And I with 4 minutes left in this particular game tonight against Louisville, I felt like I could just see our season hanging in the balance, and then we'd have offensive possessions to try and stretch out our lead and just not even get it inside or even attempt to. When we did drive, typically we were able to make something happen, either get fouled for some free throws or maybe a good dish. Some of the best plays have been when we've driven. Brady Manick is a great cutter without the
Yep.
basketball, and oftentimes he can finish. Tonight he had a bobble but found Baycott for a key dunk and a key play in that one. So they're doing just enough, is what I would say right
They
now.
just they just keep giving us hope, you know?
Yeah,
After the Duke
exactly.
after the Duke loss, we were way down in the dumps. It's like we come back, beat Clemson, beat Florida State by a bunch, shot the ball really well. It's like, oh yeah, we lost to Duke, but we got some hope, and then Pittsburgh, and we just lose all hope again. And now they're kind of building up here. Hopefully we can,
Hmm.
like you said, hopefully defensively we've kind of turned a corner a little bit or something. But yeah, like you said, somehow we're still kind of inside the tournament according to experts. Obviously, that's not who picks the field. So, and the season's not over, so we can't say we're safe or by any means. We definitely have some work to do. And kind of like I believe we've said on this podcast before, is a lot of these teams in the ACC. Pittsburgh, kind of one of them tonight against Louisville. It's not even so much that we have to beat the team; it's that we can't afford to lose it. It's more important to not lose than it is really even to win. So we have to get these wins and kind of stack these wins. But JB2 here in the comments on YouTube says, "I feel you." He kind of said we should have podcasted after the Pitt game. He needed some therapy talk there, and I just said we couldn't do it. And he said, "I feel you." That was an inexcusable loss. So if it comes down to us not making the tournament, I think that's got to be something we look at is a game at home against Pittsburgh, at the bottom of the ACC, and we just lay an egg there, not to get it. Obviously, something, if we keep winning, we should hopefully be in. But so something else happens if we don't make it. But that's has to be something I think we kind of look at if we don't get in. And yeah, I mean, we got 3 games left in the regular season. I know we're not going to go through all the games we missed individually. We've kind of talked about the trend almost already. Is kind of we get our hopes up, or we get some hope, and then we kind of dash them with a big loss. But hopefully we can withstand that. Like we've said, we got NC State coming up on Saturday at their place. Obviously it would be a revenge game for them. But again, a team towards the bottom of the ACC. I don't know what their record is, but I know they haven't been good. But again, it's a rivalry game for them. Says it'll be either ESPN or ESPN2. It's a 2 p.m. Eastern tip. And then we follow that up, another quick turnaround like we've had here, Saturday to Monday game. That Monday, the 28th, I guess a week from tonight, Syracuse comes to Chapel Hill for a 7 p.m. Eastern tip on ESPN. And then we have until that following Saturday for the much anticipated Coach K finale in Durham, in Hansborough Indoor Coliseum. What was it? Hansborough Indoor. I'm missing a word in there. But anyway, on ESPN, I think game day is at that, right? Have you seen is game day at the Duke game again? I think for Coach
I
K's
would
last game.
expect that to be the case. And I would just say, don't blame me for not potting last week. I was fully prepared and ready to go on Friday. So don't blame me for
It's
that.
true. It's totally me. Blake, I don't know what day that was. You text me like, why didn't we podcast after this game? I just couldn't. I think there was a day in there that you had texted me. Is like, honestly, it didn't even cross my mind. But really, when I thought about it, it's like I just didn't want to even talk about it. But we got Garrett Clemens here in the comments with us as well, talking about staying alive, referencing the title of this podcast here. This is a huge win. Again, I don't know. Is this? I mean, obviously, again, they're all big wins, but I think it more goes back to the point we said we just can't lose them. It's not so much even how we win them or whatever. It's just we can't afford to lose them at all.
So
So
it makes it a big win, I think.
I mean, I guess, but I don't know. It was something I wanted to talk about, and I meant to kind of even bounce this off of you before we went live, but I guess we're kind of just talking through it here tonight. Is something that frustrates me is kind of our rotations, and I know we've talked about
Yes.
this before, but Hubert just cannot bring himself to take the starters out. He cannot find rest for these guys, and I know I get it. It's a new system, it's a new coach, all that stuff. But how many times throughout the years haven't we just run teams down because they don't have the depth, or even like you were talking about not getting it inside and shooting so many threes. How many times do we say you live by the three, die by the three? And to me, I just kind of foreseeing this game, whether it's in the NCAA tournament or it's in the ACC tournament, somewhere like we just need a win and we die by the three, or somebody just kind of runs us out of the gym, not even score wise, but transitional wise, or just burying our guys. Justin McCoy was available tonight. Again, I don't know the situation. Maybe he's not 100% healthy, and he hasn't given us a ton anyway. But he was getting minutes before, so you can't say you don't trust him because you gave him minutes before. You obviously trusted him. I don't know what would have changed. Styles is getting more minutes. I don't know. I know you're shaking your head in kind of an agreement. We've talked about this before, but how do we not get guys, more breathers? Even if it's like hide somebody on offense. We do enough one-on-one ball already that you can kind of hide guys on offense, and as long as they're not a liability on defense, why can't we get guys minutes to spell some of these other guys some rest here?
I'm 100% with you. I feel like that's going to be the undoing of this team at some point, is either, living by a three and dying by a three. It doesn't want to go in the basket that particular night. And or the lack of a rotation. Our guys are just gassed. I mean, these Saturday, Monday turnarounds, we're fortunate to pull away at the end of this one with the minutes that our starters are getting. I mean, we've got to be ranked near the top of the heap in college basketball in terms of the minutes for these guys. And he has shown to put Styles in, and Puff got some more playing time tonight. But Styles has only been playing minutes in the first half in these last two games, it seems to me. But yeah, he relies so heavily on the starters, and I'm just definitely concerned, that, come after playing in a rivalry game, like you said, in Raleigh on Saturday, and then you got Syracuse, that could just be a problem if we run out of gas, and then of course you only have 1 day of rest in between games in the NCAA tournament, and no days of rest typically with the ACC tournament. But we are sitting, I think, fourth in the league, so we are still on track to possibly get a bye in the ACC tournament if we
Yep.
continue to win. And if we do manage to win until we get to Hansborough indoor stadium, then that's going to set up a really big. That's going to be a meaningful game. As of course we know it was going to be emotionally meaningful anyway, but it's going to mean a lot too in terms of standings.
Yeah, and that's kind of the point I was going to bring up is especially the ACC tournament where we may have to win, depending on how we finish these last 3 games out, what we feel like we have to do in the ACC tournament. Obviously, if we lose a couple of these and feel like we have a lot of work to do, we're probably not at that 4 seed anymore. We probably have more work to do, but then you're talking about we got to win 3 games in 3 days. Or even if we have the double bye, but you're like, hey, to feel safe, we need to, make the championship or play whoever it is in the our second game really tight. And, are we just too gassed to do that in 2 straight days? So, yeah. And I was going to make the point too of like, how many times have we felt like maybe Duke has had the maybe more talented team, but Coach K didn't play his bench, played 6 guys and, we just outran them with our transition or, them not being able to get back on D and stuff. And so I know we're in agreement there, so there's not going to be a lot of talk about that. But I did pull up the ACC standings. These can't be updated because it says we have only won one game so far, so that's not counting tonight. But
I think
we
we
were
just got our 20th win, yes, and we're 12-5 in the ACC.
okay. Yeah, that sounds right because this is saying our streak is just one win, and obviously tonight was our second straight win with the Virginia Tech one Saturday. So before tonight, we were it looks like third, tied with Miami in the standings, but for whatever reason they have us above them. We're third over Miami, behind Notre
Which
Dame
is
and
interesting
Duke.
because Miami holds a tiebreak, Wake
That's
Forest
what I
holds a
was thinking.
tiebreak. Basically, everybody holds a
Yeah,
tiebreak
Duke, Notre
because we
Dame,
played them
Miami,
all
Wake
on the road.
Forest.
Yeah.
Yep. But anyway, we're either third or fourth with Miami having the same record. Wake Forest is 11-6, right behind us, having played an extra game right now. And tonight would have changed that. Virginia is 11-6. So yeah, we're right in there for the double bye, which would be probably huge for us. But we're also, a loss or a loss to the wrong team. Maybe it is to having to play in I guess it's technically the second round of the ACC tournament, but the first meaningful round of the ACC tournament. So,
Well, it'll be huge for this team with the conversation that we just had about the limited rotation and the amount of minutes for the starters to get that bye, and face a team that's already got a day's worth of, you know, game action on their legs. Although I feel like a lot of times I've seen in the ACC tournament that team that already has played a game kind of got their legs under them, already seen how the ball goes through the hoop there, and tends to almost play better than the team that's coming off the bye.
well, I would agree with you. We've seen that, but it also, what's their rotation look like? If
Yeah.
you know, and even if we get that second, whatever the second win, what does that mean for the next day? But we'll get there. We don't need to talk about one other thing. I was going to kind of, with the conversation we're having of living by the three, dying by the three is the night that we go cold, like Manic has kind of been the huge one for us in the reading. Just how confident he's been, how quick his release has been. I feel like RJ's kind of in the middle. Caleb is so much off the dribble. He's dribble, step back. And that's not necessarily where he's more successful. I feel like, if we can offensive rebound, kick it out to Caleb, or, he's just coming off something and he's wide open is when he hits more of his. But a lot of his threes that he takes, I think tonight I saw he was 1 for 7 again from three. But
Mm.
so many of those are just off his dribble. Manic is just someone will pass it to him and he's so quick, he doesn't think about it, just up. But even tonight, he started off with 3 quick threes, you know, and we've seen when we get down as a team that we don't come back. I know we were down. Let's see what game. I guess that was the Pitt game, right? We got down 20, and they kind of made a push late, but just wasn't enough. It's not good for us when we get down so much. If Manic has that off night where he doesn't keep us in it early, or has his stretch, kind of that's kind of exactly what we're talking about. Is when we're gonna die by the three. Is we almost need to take them, and they're just not going in, or guys are pressured, or tired, whatever it is. But yeah, we've probably exhausted that talk and said unless you got more there. I don't know what else we
No,
can.
I agree. I mean, there's definitely times when Manic just carries us, at the start of that Virginia Tech game, and then, late in the game. Sometimes we see him get tired really at the start of the second half, but he always comes through down the clutch, and he has been such a huge piece for this team and a joy to watch. So I don't think we've given him enough credit on this podcast, to be honest. And RJ has been pretty solid and pretty steady this season. Some nights seems like his shot is off. Thankfully tonight it was on. He had a really solid game against Louisville tonight, and he's been controlling the ball. And when Caleb gets in those turnover modes, it's nice that we have RJ to handle the ball and make plays. And I think he did a good job of that tonight, able to make some of the crucial drives, like the one that ended up with the Manic to Baycott play. RJ started that off the dribble, getting into the lane. So I just want to see more of that, particularly in late game
Yeah.
situations, and not settling for the three. And so often, I saw someone, tweet this out on Twitter. Like our late shot clock situation should be try to get the ball inside or drive to the basket versus dribble, 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 step back three, which is what we see all too often.
Yeah.
And occasionally that does work out. Sometimes Caleb is hot and that works out, but I don't think it's the highest percentage play, and I wish that they would alter that strategy.
Yeah, I feel like we said it on a podcast, but it feels like our late game shot clock strategy is 1v1. Either RJ or Caleb is going off the dribble and trying to go in. And so many times we're dribbling into so much traffic. Now we have found, Manic, like you said, cutting baseline or whatever. And we've had success for that last, few games. But so many times we're going into traffic and we don't find anybody, or, it's a bad shot, or, contested shot and whatever. But I agree that we haven't given Manic enough credit. I think it was tonight during the game. I was just like, man, it's probably early when he was hitting those threes, but like, what would this team look like if we didn't have Brady Manic on it? And so,
I think we'd be middle to bottom of the
oof.
conference standings.
But like you said earlier tonight, even part of that problem is we go away from Baycott, and the announcers were saying it tonight too. There, like the second half, he had, I don't know if he ended up with zero at the point they were talking. He hadn't scored, and he only had 2 rebounds in the second half, and that was, I think there was like maybe 4 minutes left in the game. So I mean, I get it that they dig down on him, they double team and whatever, but that just helps other guys get open shots. We have to go inside and make an effort to get it to Baycott. And we've had problems feeding the post. We've had problems with Baycott not holding the seal long enough, and it gets poked away. I get it, but I mean, we're in college D1. We can hardly call them amateurs anymore. Take a couple of practices and be able to feed the post and get a better angle. I mean, this is all stuff in middle school that you're starting to learn and be taught this stuff. So there's not really an excuse to not be able to do this stuff at the North Carolina level. But yeah, I think we just go away from Baycott way too quickly and easily. Um, you know, like we said, the late shot clock play call has not been stellar in my opinion, and I don't even know who's to blame for that. If it's just we're not calling anything, if I don't know, I don't know if in practice they do that and it works every time, or where where the disconnect is, but
There were times tonight that we tried to get the ball into Baycott and it was, defended, it was knocked away, or, Curry is pretty strong in there for Louisville, and so he would pass it back out. So it wasn't like we completely went away from it. It just didn't ever manifest it as a shot until that critical dunk, I think, where his only 2 points in
yeah.
the second half. And he did maybe secure a couple rebounds there late too. But I think we do still need to make it a point of emphasis. And I don't know why the guys aren't capable of feeding the post better. I see some try and rush the pass in there. Sometimes Manic there's a good angle to get it in the high low, and he kind of rushes the pass before it's really the plays fully developed. Um, Puff Johnson's actually pretty solid at feeding the post, I've noticed. So I'd like to see more of that. And I just want to pause for a moment and with another player appreciation and mention the play of Leaky Black. He has been a really steady force for this team. Not only defensively, which we have known that he's capable of and expected out of him this season, but offensively, he's been bringing it. Consistent 3-point shot out of the wing and some nice drives to the basket and finishes on fast break here tonight. I saw a couple. So he's just been really, I've been enjoying his senior season, so I just wanted to make sure to get that in there.
Yeah, we if we were the stats guys, and we were really motivated, we'd look back probably at his last 5, 6 games, whatever it's been, but he's got to be shooting a pretty good percentage from that corner three. Tonight he was 1 for 2 on 3-pointers. I don't know if they were both in the corner, but especially in that corner, I don't think people are cringing like when he would shoot a three in past years. That he's been pretty. I don't want to say automatic, but he's been pretty consistent knocking those down, and some of them in big situations where we need him.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
the Jay Billis and the other guy tonight mentioned that he's shooting just under 50%. He's shooting like 80% at the free throw line, and his 3-point percentage has got to be up from past years. I don't
yeah.
remember exactly what it is, but yeah, a consistent threat from the wing at least is where he seems most comfortable. I think the miss he had was a little bit more top of the key, kind of late shot clock, and didn't look as good.
Yeah, so I did pull up tonight's stats, and mostly for the minutes as we were talking about earlier. Caleb Love played all 40 minutes, and went 1 for 7 from three. Like I said, 5 assists tonight, but also 7 turnovers. Let's see,
Yeah, the
Armando,
turnovers were an issue there for sure.
and again, it's in stretches. And somebody, I don't think it was us that were talking about it, but somebody said it's so. I think it was maybe Dewey Burke on the last pod on the post game of Virginia Tech game, but it goes so much on his first shot, whether he makes that first shot or misses that first shot, and how much confidence he has, and kind of what game it's going to be for him. I know he kind of adds some points, especially in a game like tonight at the free throw line late. He I don't want to say padded his stats. We needed the free throws, but he kind of adds to his points per game a little bit on those points that he gets. But I
You
mean,
feel good about him at the line late in the game, which is a
yeah,
crucial thing. It is a crucial thing, and I definitely noticed when he missed his first shot tonight, I cringed a little bit because I was like, "Uh-oh." And it's such a crazy thing. It's like how our best player at times can also be sometimes our worst player
yeah.
sometimes, just with those turnovers.
Yeah, I mean, it was
Um,
on Saturday against Virginia Tech. I think somebody said he had 7 assists to 2 turnovers. Now he's 5 assists, 7 turnovers. So it's crazy. Armando played 38 minutes tonight. Ended up with 12 points, 15 rebounds. RJ Davis 36 minutes, Brady Manick 33 minutes, Leaky 32. And then off the bench we had Puff with 13, and then Styles and Walton with both 4, and kind of as you said, all in the first half for both of those guys. So it's yeah. I know I don't want to go back down that road, but I was just kind of looking at that as we were talking about that.
I would just love to see just give Styles a couple more minutes in the second half. That's all I would ask.
And it's not like he did anything the first half, right? To say like, "Oh man, like get him out of there. He's out of his league," or anything like that. Is he's given us solid minutes. I won't say he's given us a ton. I don't know that he really even had any stats tonight. He shot 0 for 1. I think it was a 3-pointer, a rebound, a foul. I mean, so it's you know, I mean, in
Yeah,
4 minutes, how much damage can you do anyway? Let's see a little bit more,
yeah.
but. So we got Christian joining us here again. Says glad we're still live, but yikes, this team is inconsistent. It really bites them in the AC or will bite them, kind of as we are talking about, either in the ACC or NCAA tournament, or possibly
Both.
both. But he did say, as bad as Caleb was, it felt like he actually did care and was putting in real effort tonight. And that's the hard part of criticizing our players. I think we try not to harp on guys too hard. I've always kind of said this podcast that obviously we're going to have a little bit of bias. We want North Carolina to win, and we're going to cheer for them, but we're going to kind of keep it real as well, and not be so biased that we can't see the negative. But I think as much as we're kind of getting on Caleb here, and even Coach a little bit here, yeah. nobody wants to win more than those guys, and I think we can admit that as, even though maybe we're a little bit crazier fans because we actually go on and talk about these guys afterwards, and podcast about it. But even as much as we want to win, they're a lot more invested in us. They have a lot more hours invested in it than we do, and sweat and tears and blood and who knows what else. So
Yeah, of
yeah,
course, agreed with that statement, which is why it was all the more maddening the way that they came out against Pitt and then, tried to make a furious push and come back late and were almost successful, but just too little too late. And that's what was maddening about it was like, where was that effort for the first, 25 minutes of the game?
right. And I texted you after Virginia Tech too. It's like that's awesome that we beat Virginia Tech on the road and all that, but it almost makes Pitt that kind of much more infuriating that we can come out and do this, but yet at home against Pitt, just simply can't take care of business. Like I don't even care about beating them by 20 or anything at this point. It's like just get that win. I think talking about NCAA tournaments, I don't think we would be safe at this point if we were to beat Pitt. But how much better of a situation would we have been in if we would be
That
in
was
Pitt?
a Q4 loss.
Yeah,
Yeah, by far our worst loss of the season. And I read something that was like one of our worst losses statistically in terms of, at home to a poor team in many years. So
yep.
yeah, that
And
one
I
let's just
think
forget about it and move on.
And I think we would have been tied with Notre Dame for second in the ACC if, again, the stats I'm looking at or the standings I'm looking at are not counting tonight, and I don't know that Notre Dame plays tonight or if they play, later this week. But if we would have beat them after that game, we'd have both been 12-4 in the ACC, and they held the tiebreaker as we kind of talked about, but we won tonight. If they lose, whenever they play tonight, tomorrow night, whenever it is, then we're back into second place, a game behind Duke, with that game still coming up. I don't know.
Yeah, our losses have come at the worst times when we're playing a team directly for first place, like against Duke and against Miami, and we just terribly blow it, or playing for second place and we blow it against Wake or against Pitt.
Yep. Well, and like we've said, we haven't really beat anybody. I mean, I don't know that we beat somebody that's going to be in the NCAA tournament yet this year. Because we always, we noticeably always go back to the Michigan game on this podcast, but we kind of saw what happened to them, and they're kind of on the bubble, probably trending the opposite way of us right now.
Yeah, that's
But
a good point, Dan, and I think you're right, which is it is eye-opening. Yeah, have we beaten anyone who's going to be in the tournament?
because I mean,
I
is
don't
Wake
think
or
so.
is Virginia Tech going to be in the tournament? I
I
mean,
don't think so. I mean, they'd have to win the ACC tournament.
let's see. Yeah, I mean they've slipped. They're 8-8. Well, again before tonight, so 8-9 in the ACC. They're far enough back in this.
Notre Dame plays Syracuse. I don't know where it is on Wednesday night,
Okay.
just for something
Yeah,
to keep an eye on.
and like I said, Notre Dame's probably in, but we've lost to them. And really the games we have left, Syracuse probably isn't in,
Mhm.
NC State isn't in, and then Duke. Um,
Duke's our only opportunity to get a good quality win.
yeah. And I don't know where College of Charleston is. I don't even know what league they're in. They're probably in a one big league, so they have to win their tournament
Southern
to.
Conference.
So it obviously comes down to their tournament whether they'd get in. So, but yeah, like Asheville as well. They have to Elon, some of those teams that we beat early on. But I'm scrolling through our schedule, and I don't think Virginia, are they maybe on the bubble? Virginia is
Yeah, they
right
have been
behind
playing
Wake.
better of late. They've been
They're
playing a
tied for
lot better
Wake.
in their last 10 games. But I would say they're on the outside. Maybe they can stack enough wins and do some damage in the ACC tournament to possibly get in because they've definitely been playing better.
Yeah, yeah. I don't think we've beat a team that's right now anyway in the tournament. Obviously, yeah, something could happen here as we go, but yeah, I don't know, that's crazy. But and I would ask you here as we transition, maybe if you wanted to predict what's going to happen in these last three games going into the ACC tournament. But we know that if you haven't learned or you don't know anything about this team, you should have learned by now not to bet on them and probably not to even try to predict what's going to happen because, like I said, we're start to get our hopes up and then we're going to drop off somebody. So I think we're going to just not even touch that So Christian kind of asked, how likely is UNC to get a top 1 through 4 seed in the NCAA or ACC tournament, in your opinion? I mean, right now we should. I mean, I think if we even did what we expect to do the rest of this season, which would be to beat North Carolina State, beat Syracuse, and then lose to Duke, I would have to think we're a top 4 team going into the ACC tournament at that point. Would you agree or
I
not?
don't want to forecast anything negative, but Buddy Boeheim is the type of player that UNC loves to give a lot of points to, and I hope that they show up for that one. Obviously, we got NC State, so one game at a time, but um, hopefully Manic finds that sweet spot in the middle of that zone and
Well, that's what I was going to say
orchestrate.
is we've always killed him from the high post, but who do you see as the high post
Or
right now? I mean,
Leaky, but
I
probably
would say
Manic needs
I
to
would
fill
rather
that
have
role.
Leaky so that he kind of passes out of it to like Manic or RJ for a 3, but
Yeah, but you need someone who can consistently knock down a mid range, which we don't. Do we have someone on the team that can do that?
well, oh man.
Well,
Yeah.
hopefully, all the best, and we should finish in the top four of the ACC. I agree.
And like you said early on, I think it's pretty important that we do because, we don't have the depth, all that stuff we talked about before. I think being in the top 4 is a little bit more comfortable. I don't know, people have kind of talked about the ACC and we have as well of how down they are, but it sounds like probably about 3, 4, possibly 5 teams out of the ACC could get a bid. So if we're at, if we're in the top 4 going into the ACC and we win one game, play a tight one with, wherever it is for the 4 seed, I think that ends up being probably the 1 seed or something like that. I think I saw. So if we could play a tight game against Duke in the tournament or something, I think that would help us. Obviously, if we'd beat them, that'd be huge. But if we could win one and then play a really tight game, maybe we could feel comfortable about it. But I do think it's important that we are a top 4.
Yep.
So I think that's about all we got. Unless you wanted to go longer, Gil, we could always talk about what happened with Michigan and Wisconsin over the weekend. But
I
you're
was going to try and throw in something about handshake line went well tonight, so we got that going for us. No, I don't
oh,
think we need to touch that too much, and keep an eye
it,
on the bubble.
it has been funny. People were saying the reason that Juwan Howard is so sensitive about timeouts is because of Chris Webber in the '93
Yeah,
championship. So.
the late game timeouts give Juwan PTSD.
All right, we'll save that for an off-season podcast maybe, and we'll call it a night. We missed Blake, of course, and all his positivity tonight. But Gil, thanks for jumping on, joining. Hopefully your leg keeps healing. Thank you everybody that joined in us live. If you would like to join us live, make sure you're subscribed on YouTube. It's just UNC Hoops Talk on YouTube. And if not, wherever you're listening to this, we appreciate you. Um, I hope we're not too negative. I hope we're just keeping it real. And if you guys would like to join in us, Gil is Yogi Gil on Twitter. I'm at All Tar Heel Dan on Twitter. Hit us up and come at us where you disagree. Let us know where we got it right. But make sure you're subscribed to the podcast and hey, tell somebody about it. Share it with a Tar Heel friend or family member. And um, it's been a little bit harder lately, but I always say this podcast is meant to just kind of unite Tar Heel Nation. So let's keep doing that as we end the season here. Hopefully we're not building our hopes up just to have them broken here at the end of the season. Let's keep cheering the Tar Heels on and get into the postseason play here on a high note to maybe make a little bit of a run. But you got any parting words, Gil?
Yeah, let's just hope for some wins to finish out the season, and I don't think we can all expect this team to go on some late run to the national championship or anything like that. But just keep building this program. It's in a little bit of a rebuild phase, so let's keep building and let's stay behind our team.
Yeah, let's end Hubert's first year at least on a positive note. Get a good base there to build off of. I think that sounds about right. So that's what we got, guys. I will try not to have us take so long to podcast again. Hopefully, we'll get in before have kind of a Duke preview maybe before we're going into that game. But thank you guys for joining, listening, and sharing the podcast as you guys always do. Love you guys. Until next time, go Heels.